Welcome, everybody, to our Copper Country Habitat for Humanity form digitization presentation. I- I'll be presenting Tyler Walzak as well as Owen Schussler and Reagan Drake. Um, for our executive summary, on the right here, we have a picture of our project charter for this process. We had a problem, a goal, and we had a few outcomes. Our problems were that we were tasked with helping Habitat for Humanity improve their volunteer onboarding process. Originally, this process was done entirely by on paper. These paper forms were transported by hand, um, which gives us a lack of efficiency and increases higher wait times, higher lead times, and is very as well as the data is input directly into Excel by hand, and this can be very tedious work. Our goals were to improve our speed, the average speed of the time it takes to fill out the form, as well as improve the form's quality rating by reducing the scrap due to no more handwritten forms, as well as reducing the manual work of having to manually input the data into the Excel, um, and completely taking that out, which will increase our efficiency. Our outcomes were we did have significant time savings. It was through the ease of the form and the reduction in the manual work, as well as the transportation. We had an increase in the quality due to no more illegible handwritten forms that had to be thrown out, as well as our increase in efficiency due to the reduction of transportation as well as the reduction of the manual work. This is our current situation, value stream map. You can see in the top left, it takes the total time is 13 days. It starts with Copper Country Habitat for Humanity, starting at Sandy, sending an email to their bulk list of volunteers. Sandy then will receive emails back from those volunteers, trying to, typically waiting about 2 days for those responses. Sandy then sends an additional email to the people who responded, which will include the details of the job that they're going to be working on, as well as when they're needed and what exactly they'll be doing. Then the volunteers show up on the day of the construction and they fill out the form. Um, and then the form gets back into Lynn's hands, where Lynn logs the volunteer hours and then takes the forms back to Sandy. Sandy then has to manually input the data from the forms into an Excel sheet, which is then used to log the um, log the volunteer hours, and a newsletter gets sent to those volunteers. Our total cycle time, we took the high side at 150 minutes, and our total lead time was 13 days. Back time evaluation was that this is ahead of schedule. Our current situation background. Um, our current process with the paper forms proved to have few inefficiencies. Um, some of these problems with the current process is that the current process takes the volunteers time. When they show up on the job site for the construction, they're all excited, ready to get to work. And then they find out that they have to fill out this form, which can throw a wrench in them in their momentum, kind of dampen their mood a little bit. Another problem is that these forms trade hands too many times. They get in office where they then get sent with Lynn to the job site where they put into the volunteers' hands to fill them out, back into Lynn's hands to take them back to the office, to then go into Sandy's hands so that Sandy can manually input the data into the spreadsheet. This is just inefficient and too many steps to this process. The forms we were having issues with being illegible. Some of the volunteers show up off some energy drinks. They're all shaky and excited to get to work. And the handwriting ends up looking like our writing here on the right side. Just not able to picture what they're trying to say. And cause it scrap, and those forms just get thrown out. Um, for our manual entry into the spreadsheet, that's obviously a problem that Sandy has to go through all of the forms and read them and then input all of that data into a spreadsheet. This can be very, very time consuming as well as just difficult if we're struggling on trying to figure out what people are writing on their forms. For our J programs, so for our job instruction currently, there's no standard work for the process, which makes it more difficult because there's no kind of step-by-step way how to do things. And it's not documented anywhere. And so that's why we're going to include some standard work for this process. For job methods, our Tim Woods analysis and our Appendix C assessment showed us that there was lots of room for improvement, a lot of opportunity to be capitalized on. We found that we were spending most of our time in the transportation and the manual data entry areas. And so, due to those assessments, we were able to include that and start and decide that those are the areas where we were going to begin improving. For program development, we're working on having standard work and improving on the volunteer form assessment. Um, We'll also include standard work for updating the form as well as like training the volunteers and filling out the form. Um, and currently there's just not really any plan to revise or improve the current process, which is why we are um, helping out with this process.
So for the current situation, this is kind of an overview of everything we just kind of went over. It's really looking at the current process. It starts with the staff sending out a big bulk email to a lot of volunteers, and then the people who respond get a follow-up email with more details, and then when they show up for the event, they have to fill out the volunteer form on the site. And then after the day is over, the forms get taken back to the office and they're manually entered into the Excel sheet. So um, some of the inefficiencies are there on the slide. There's a lot of delays, and the unreadable handwriting is an issue a lot of the time. And then the manual form writing and then the manual entry, it just takes a long time. So it's not as good as it could be.
So here you have our proposed situation. This is what we actually did to help combat these issues that we've been talking about. Um, So we transformed this paper form into a digital Google form. Um, this is just going to be a faster form taking experience as well as just an easier experience for the user. Um, in addition, we decided to create a Google Sheet that will be linked to the Google form. This is so that whenever the Google form gets filled out, all of those answers will just automatically populate into the Google Sheet, which allows for the complete elimination of that manual data entry step in the process, which takes that takes our cycle time down immensely. Mm. It actually takes our cycle time down approximately 66% from 150 minutes down to a total of 50 minutes. We also just have better accuracy with these Google Forms. There's not any handwriting needing to be looked at. There's no scrap. There's also a faster processing time. As we said, we eliminated the manual data entry completely. That absolutely increases our processing time. Um, so for our proposed situation job instructions, right here we have a job breakdown sheet. This is going to be included. This will be good because volunteers, uh, this will increase the confidence of the volunteers because they may not know how to do this task or how to figure out how to fill out the form. This is a good job breakdown sheet just so that it can kind of walk them through and make sure that complete all of the kind of critical critical questions and tasks involved with this form. This form also is going to be able to help the staff with training. Um, They'll be able to use this whenever a volunteer needs help with filling out the form. They can use this, have them read it over. Uh, this helps them with training in general, as well as our work. We have work instructions for how to edit the form, as well as how to, I mean, we do this for how to fill out the form. So those will all be good tools for use later on. For the proposed situation job methods, for job methods, it was good. We were able to break down the whole process into individual tasks right here. The individual tasks helped us more easily identify like where we were spending most of our time and um, where we were able to cut back on some things. It helped us to eliminate the waste. We also help It also helped us to realize that a fully online transaction is going to be the best way to go about doing all of this. Fully online transaction completely it takes away the physical transportation of the forms as well as the manual data entry, which is our two biggest kind of time wasters. And it also will help the job methods also helped us to simplify assigning tasks. Um, when you have a visual tool, it helped us to realize that the Google Sheet is be linked to the Google form, and then you can add visual tools to this Google Sheet, which will help to simplify assigning tasks on the day of the construction. Maybe you can look up, filter out somebody with certain work experience, and then it will give you a list of those people that are available, and it'll just create a more simple process for assigning tasks to people on the day of the construction. For our program development, we plan to train the staff and to support the staff. I mean, even after this project concludes, we will be there to help, and we also have a training matrix right here on the right side, as well as an improvement proposal sheet on the left side. The training matrix is going to help us train the volunteers as well as help us train the employees. Just kind of a timeline on when people will get trained, what they'll get trained on, and where their knowledge will be by the end of the year in this process. And we also want to we also want to kind of bring in the document the changes to the process that hasn't really been done up until this point. And so we kind of want to add that in and make sure that they're documenting all of their changes whenever there's a change in the process or whenever there's any type of tweak or anything that they need to fix. They can document that so that they'll have that information for future use. This is the future state value stream map. Um, Starts with Copper Country Habitat for Humanity, and where Sandy sends an email to the list of the volunteers with the online form attached, as well as the date of the activity that they will be taking part in. The volunteer will then fill out the form if they're going to be available on that date. The Google form then auto populates into the Google Sheet, which then if the volunteers show up to the job site, construction day, and Lynn logs the hours and puts them in the newsletter, and then the newsletter gets sent out. As you can see right here, our total cycle time is down to 50 minutes from 150, and our total lead time is down to 2 days from the original 13 days. Snack time evaluation is still ahead of schedule.
So the Hoshin cannery system, it's a process where an organization aligns their goals with what they do on a daily basis, so like their daily activities. Um, so we have a 7-step process to implement our new system or for Habitat for Humanity. So the first step, we look at where the things are going today and like where we want to be. So it's like setting the goal and looking at all the errors and inefficiencies. And the goal is to create a smooth new experience for everybody involved. And then step 2, setting breakthrough objectives. We want to fully digitize the form and streamline the onboarding process, and then just eliminate all the problems like the handwriting and the data entry, just to make that a lot more accurate and easy to operate. And then for step three, setting goals every year, and then testing the form annually to make sure it's stays up to date and that the accuracy rate is high. Um, and make sure the staff stays trained as well. And then so for the next step, step four, we call it the catch ball. It's really sharing with the volunteers early and the staff as well, and just getting feedback early. Um, so then the changes can be made before the main project has started and all the applicants are responding. So then all the issues are just out of the way. And so for the next step, regular reviews, just making sure the form is working properly all the time, and constantly evaluating, um, and then updating the accuracy metrics as well. And once a year, doing a full review. And then for the next step, step six, um, problem solving, plan, do, check, act. Those are the tools. And then along with the five whys, it's really good for finding the root cause for the issues that are coming up. So that's a good way to do it. And then the last step, reflecting and learning. It's uh it's good to keep experimenting and finding better ways to do it. Um, and the mentor of the team, in a good way, just to make sure everything's working well and just documenting everything to um so we can see that we're improving over time. So the cost benefit analysis and projected long-term savings. So these aren't actual metrics, these aren't real numbers, but it really just shows that if it's done right, like you can see how much net savings there could be, proportionally, and then how the return on investment is. It's a really, if done right, it could be a really huge, it could be a game changer, and over a relatively short amount of time too. So it could be really helpful. So next is continued. So it's kind of like a 6 week plan. We like to break it down the first 2 weeks. It's about developing and testing the form. Um, so you really, everyone can get familiar with it and try to work out the issues before it gets sent out. And then week three, this is when we'll do the actual test with the volunteers. We try to get rid of those before, um, but that's not always the case. It won't always happen that way, and there's issues will arise. So getting those out of the way in week three is good. And then four, um, finding the issues and working to get rid of them. Seeing what happened in week three, and then week four is when you really take those issues out and make the change. And then week five will be finalizing. So you fix the issues, and then week five you're ready to go to see how it really will operate and how it works when it's done right. And then week six is just going reviewing everything, asking people's opinions on it, and any final evaluations that are needed. So the benefits and drawbacks, for job instruction. Um, so it ensures consistent staff and volunteer training. So just being really thorough so everyone is on the same page, is really important. And then a drawback it takes a lot of time, but over the long run, it'll be a really good investment. If everyone knows, what's going on and everyone's on the same page. And then for job methods, it's good to help eliminate unnecessary steps. So time isn't being wasted on stuff that isn't important. Like I know on the form, we had a couple repeat questions and things that get a little redundant. So we were able to eliminate some of that, just to make it a cleaner process. And then, yeah, the drawback, it is a new system, so it does take time to learn and implement and just getting overall more familiar with it. Um, so yeah, and then so for program development, it's just good to develop a strong framework, because it is something that will be used or that is we're planning or that they'll be planning on using for a long time. So just doing it the right way to start. It's really important to keep it up to date and just have a really good foundation. And then it is a long-term commitment, so you could be getting into something that you won't necessarily be able to backtrack as easy as you might like to if it doesn't work. But I think the when you have good job instruction and good job methods, the long-term commitment is an issue because you've done the work to make it so it's a good long-term commitment. And then so for the last benefits and drawbacks, the process mapping, um, this was really good because you can really see where the bottlenecks are. You can have a visual map of it and see just how it works and see where the issues are. The drawback, it's limited effectiveness if you don't actually go through it. Um, so that's something that does take time to implement and go through, but it's just good to map out and see where the issues are. And so for the kata experiments, um, those are really good because you can see and hear the real feedback from people of what they're seeing and how the form is, and what improvements that need to be made. And then the issue with that is it's not always easy to get volunteers to do that for you because it does take a little bit of time and to get their feedback, their thorough feedback, it isn't just the easiest thing in the world to do. So yeah, the COD experience are really useful.
And then for the program stability plan, we came up with a few audits. The first one is the form accuracy audit. That is going to be completed by Sandy. It's going to be done monthly. And in this audit, it's making sure that the forms stay up to date with accurate information and they can change it. And then the standard work audit, that's going to be completed by Lynn. It's going to be done quarterly. And they're going to learn from the volunteers what needs to be updated as well as making sure that all the information stays accurate and it is being updated when it needs to be in order to stay up to date. And the third one is the digital systems audit. This is also performed by Sandy. It's done bi-monthly, and this is a systems operational one, and that is going to be dealing with the Google form importing to the Google Sheets and making sure that all of that is being transferred correctly. And if there's any issues, they'll be able to fix them and they will understand, like, if the names and emails are getting duplicated, they're able to take that information out and fix that. And then with our A3s, we had goals to make filling out the forms faster and easier, eliminating errors by linking the Google Docs and Sheets together. And then Sandy is the go-to person when it comes to those Google Docs and Sheets because she will be working with it the most. The recommendations is switching to the completely online forms. With this, it eliminates manual data entry issues as well as just doing it by hand every single time. And it simplifies communication and workload. It does this by, with it all being online, it's easier for the forms to be completely transferred compared to having the volunteers write down and then them then being transposed online and that data being put online, and it eliminates mistakes. With our kata experiments, we had them fill out the paper forms as well as doing online forms. With the paper forms, the information is missed and writing is not legible all the time. It's hard to read, which makes inputting data difficult. Forms are filled out incorrectly, and then compared to the online forms, the forms are filled out quicker, they're filled out more accurately, and the transferring data is completely done online. So there's just less room for human error in the online forms compared to when the paper forms were being done.
Thank you. to everybody watching our presentation. We just want to say a quick thank you to Habitat for Humanity for working so closely with us and being open. Whenever we had any questions, they were always willing to answer or find answers. Um, and they also provided a lot of information that we used in our paper. So